It's Zach Eflin. Yesterday, starting pitcher for the Orioles against the Tampa Bay Rays down in Florida as the spring training schedule goes into its second week. Opening day less than 3 weeks from today. Coming up on March 26th, Oriole Park Camden Yards will be at Pickles Pub, Baltimore baseball tonight in all of our glory. And obviously, we'll be previewing that over the next weeks as well. It's Vinny at Haynie 105.7 The Fan. Vinny's off today. He'll be back on Tuesday. Nolan McGraw in the house, Mike Pope as well. And Zach Eflin had back surgery, spent 3 stints on the IL in 2025. And according to Zach Eflin, this back issue that had arisen had lasted for quite some time. He hadn't been comfortable for many, many seasons. Got it done. And one of his quotes after the game was, "It's like I have a new back," which is great. And then yesterday against Tampa, 2 innings, a hit, 1 walk, 3 Ks. The most important thing, Nolan McGraw, well, first thing, he got out of there healthy. He didn't get carried off the field or ambulanced out. But the velo was 94, 95 miles an hour. Not only with his fastball, but with his secondary stuff. So Zach Eflin, and we were talking at the end of the show yesterday about the rotation order. And maybe a 6-man rotation could be part of the equation at some point for the Birds. But it's going to be Bradish, Rogers, Baz, Bassitt, and either Eflin or Kremer. And Dean Kremer has been a reliable, solid, sometimes spectacular pitcher. Eflin was their number 1 pitcher going into last year. But the good news, the velo and the health look pretty impressive against the Rays.
Yeah, I wish we got to see it on TV yesterday because a big thing that he was talking about in his recovery from the back surgery and that procedure was that, well, all of a sudden he's able to lift his arm higher than he used to. And he's saying that changed his entire pitching motion. So I don't know if it looked that drastically different in person or not. Just wish I got a chance to see it. But the stats, the results speak for themselves. And as we sit here just a couple weeks from opening day, and you mentioned it, you're trying to figure out who's going to have that last spot in the rotation, either him or Dean Kremer. I guess there is a possibility that Eflin, the fact that he's getting, his spring start this late into the game, the ramp up starting now instead of a couple weeks ago, maybe you could say that he hangs around in Sarasota for another week or so, just build up even more durability, more endurance, and then he'll join maybe the major league club after that. They hate to say it, the easiest way to sort out the issue would be someone getting injured, and that is probably going to happen at some point. Yeah. But I'm up for anything. I said it yesterday. I think 6-man is on the table. I think it'd be a pretty good idea to start the year. But if Eflin isn't ready to go, then Kremer will be certainly built up by then between getting an early start in spring and the WBC.
And even with Kyle Bradish, I would still think you'd proceed with caution with him. All systems go with Rogers and Bassitt. Shane Baz has a full season after Tommy John surgery a couple of years ago. And Kremer, now he's good pitching for Israel in the World Baseball Classic. But even Bradish, I would think, Nolan, the de facto ace of the staff, could possibly be slow play to some level. Doesn't seem as though, and we'll talk to Jake real later, that is a plan right now. I mean, he's kind of pumping at all cylinders right now, but long year.
Right. I think, you're just naturally going to have to hold him back a little bit to get him through 162. I mean, whether the fans like it or not, and I'll be honest, from my perspective, it is a little annoying because if you're going to lean on this guy that heavy, I would hope that he's out there. But, this is the situation they're in. They have cultivated some depth, so that is nice. Everyone has good health for now, which is incredible. Outside of the Kittredge thing this week and what we kicked off spring with the infield injuries, actually been pretty fortunate this year, and Jackson Holliday, I see you knocking over there. I'm knocking with you. But even Jackson Holliday, he started swinging yesterday in the cage, so he's working his way back. If he's not there on the opening day roster, he'll be there for minor league opening day. And he'll be able to join the team in a couple weeks. So they're in decent shape right now. I just think, it'd be interesting to see how they, try to keep guys as healthy as possible, by holding them back, limiting innings, Because at a certain point, there's only so much you can do. Like, you just have to let it rip at a certain point and hope that these guys can stay durable.
Eflin's an above-average pitcher, as we know. And he helped the Orioles get to the playoffs in 2024. Yeah, the Birds had built up some equity by the time they had traded for him, but the starting rotation was in disarray. And he came in and he pitched game 2 of the playoffs after Corbin Burns went in game 1. But I'm very intrigued by his potential upside here. 1-year deal. I believe there's an option for 27, if I'm not mistaken. I could be wrong. But if he's healthy, he gets 25 starts, for instance, 30. I think there's a guy that's going to be a big asset to Craig Albernaz in his first year here in Baltimore out of the rotation.
Right, and I mean, before it was all talk, and up until yesterday, just didn't have any actual game action to go off of. And as fun as it is, as nice it is to hear a guy say, well, I feel the best I've ever felt. You know, this feels like a weight off my shoulders. This back injury's behind me. Something that he had been pitching through for years before it actually finally blew up and prevented him from pitching at all. That he's saying all the right things. That's fine. I've heard that a million times from a million players, that they feel the best they've ever felt. And then the results don't come. So it will be a little wait and see with him, you know, how it translates to the regular season. But this is a veteran pitcher. He knows what he's doing. He knows his limitations. He's very in tune with his arsenal. So I think there's a lot to like here.
Now, for our listeners out there on this Featured Artist Friday, it's Vinny and Haynie, 105.7 The Fan, Bob Haynie, Nolan McGraw. Nolan's going to be sitting next to me at some point in time here on this Featured Artist Friday. That reveal coming up in a few minutes. As you look at the rotation on paper, it's an upgrade over last year. I mean, last year was brutal, as we know. And Trevor Rogers kind of saved it from being an absolute abysmal starting rotation. But what are your expectations? I mean, are they going to finish starting rotation top 5 in a run average, top 10 innings pitched from your starters? Who's the guy that's going to get the bulk of the innings? Who's the Burns if they get to the playoffs? They're going to go 8 innings in that sort of game. Who's going to keep the pitch counts to a minimum? I'm sure they're going to. Drew French is going to kind of keep things, as copacetic as he possibly can earlier. I don't want to get orange Kool-Aid yet, Nolan, because again, Bradish, I don't know. Coming off Tommy John, he looked dominant last year when he came back. All systems go so far at spring. Trevor Rogers, we've discussed this many times. Which one are you getting? The 2024 or the 2025 version? I'm leaning towards 25 because it's outside of that outlier against, who was it the other day? The Netherlands. Mm-hmm. He was dominant in spring training. Baz, I'm excited about. Bassitt's solid, proving he's an older version of Dean Kremer. And then you have Manbot. And now the Eflin we just talked about. I don't want to say there's a surplus. What is it? Riches or benefit of riches, whatever the stupid term is. But there's still reasons to be somewhat skeptical. And in particular, injuries. And is Rogers for real? If Bassitt and Kremer are just them, that's fine. Eflin, health permitting, he's him, that's fine. I mean, what Shane Baz are you getting? The one that pitched at Steinbrenner Stadium or the one that pitched away from there?
Right.
In 2024.
Well, at least you have two guys that I think you're pretty confident in what you're getting, Bassitt and Kremer. You know, 2 different levels, 2 different standards, but of all the guys in the rotation, all the guys in the starting pitcher conversation, those are the 2 that I feel most confident in saying, yeah, I'm pretty sure I know what their stat line is going to look like this year. Next tier down, I would go with your front-end guys, Bradish and Rogers. But it's a little more of a mystery for 2 different reasons. Injury in one case, Rogers just being otherworldly in the other. And honestly, with Rogers, what if we just split the difference between, his mediocreness and his eliteness? You split the difference, that should be good enough to be in your starting 5. So I think overall expectations, team ERA, well, let me say starting pitcher ERA, because I don't know what the bullpen's going to do. Starting pitcher ERA, I would hope, is top 5 to top 7 in the American League. If it's anything less than that, maybe if it's more closer to 10 in the American League, then your offense really has to be number 1 or number 2. So we'll see. I mean, I'm interested what the balance is going to be this year. You know, it'd be great if everyone's firing on all cylinders, but there's going to be at least periods of this season, a couple months stretch, where the offense is going to have to pick it up for the pitching for whatever reason, and vice versa. So for now, at the very least, compared to last year, they're deeper, the floor is higher, and they're good enough to compete. Are they elite? Can't say that, but they're good enough to compete.
On paper, this is a better team than the one that won in 2025. But the unexpected injuries and dips in performance from some of these young players led to a last-place finish. So I think there's reason for optimism. I'm not booking World Series tickets. I might throw a couple bucks on the Orioles with given their World Series odds. I might do that sort of thing. But based on what you've seen and heard, ladies and gentlemen, through spring training for the first couple of weeks, what do you think about the expectations for the team? It's been a brutal year. Last year was brutal. We talked about it at the end of the season, or the end of December, Nolan. Maryland getting to the Sweet 16, which was almost a year ago, in my opinion, was the highlight of the sports calendar for the big three: Orioles, Ravens, Maryland basketball. Orioles finished last. Ravens missed the playoffs. High got fired in May. Harbsey, he got condiffed after the season. Now we go into 2026. Well, Maryland basketball stinks. Oh, Maryland football had a brutal year after a 4-0 start. So we go into 2026. We still have free agency in the NFL. Still have the draft in the NFL. We pretty much know what the Orioles might look like. Maryland Hoops has some work to do going into 2026-27. And then Maryland football, who knows? Michael Oxley is deemed as one of the hottest hot seats going into college football. So, Nolan, right now the Orioles are going to have to kind of save the day as we get into March and April here for our sports calendar fun.
Yeah, because things get ugly for the Ravens starting next week.
Yeah.
So before we even get to minicamp or the draft, things could get ugly for the Ravens.